Hello everyone, I'm Steve Jackson from Printables Warehouse, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process of setting up, utilizing, and being able to see the differences between a regular cut and a perforation cut using a Roland VersaCAMM printer and Versaworks. I'm going to show you in Coreldraw how to set up the cut line, the perf cut line that is, and a regular cut line on that graphic, and how to control them through Versaworks to get a different product for your customer. Now, what is perf cutting? Perf cutting is the ability to cut through not just the vinyl substrate that you've printed, but also the backing material so that you can get a finished product that is able to have an outer shape to it that is contour cut or die cut to a shape. So you would take an example of a non-perf cut decal would be something like this. So we could produce these for our customer, and it has the cut backing around it, and the decal would peel off of this, but it's not very eye-pleasing, and it's not a real good point of purchase sale item. Well, we could take it from this to something like this, to where the backing is still on there with this product. Let's see if I can peel it away here. The backing is still on this product, so we can sell that as an end piece to the customer, or we could even go a step further where we've removed this and maybe add a hang tag to it that has a little bit of information, could have a UPC code, a barcode, or the sale price on it, and this is now ready for the customer to take off of a rack. You'd simply punch a hole through there and hang it on a rack, and they'd be able to take this and go apply it to their vehicle or wherever else they wanted to. So it gives a very nice finished product for the customer and something that they can take with them. Now it turns your project of this one here over to something like this and changes the value of it to the customer as well. This may be perceived as a low quality item and not very high value to it when they're coming and looking at it on the shelf in your store or something like that. Whereas this now is much more attractive and much more commercial product that they'll want to take with them and will pay a higher premium for. So let's take a look at the process through Coreldraw, Versaworks, and also on the printer some settings and different ways you need to control it. Be able to take and turn an ordinary project into something that's much nicer for our customer. Okay, so here we are in Corel, and I've got a blank page open up because I want to show you how to set up the Perf Cut Contour line to begin with. In the normal Roland VersaWorks palette that we can get to through in Corel X5 and X6, the palette manager, let me expand that out. I would come down to the My Palettes, palette libraries, spot color libraries, and then to the Roland folder, and I have Roland VersaWorks, the Roland color system, and Roland metallic color system. But those palettes don't contain a Perf Cut Contour or any of the VDP ones that you can create on your own and have specialty named spot colors. So this one here, I've got the Cut Contour, RDG White, and so forth. So I need to set up a new palette with a spot color that's named Perf Cut Contour. So what we're going to do is you go to the Tools and down to Palette Editor, and we'll choose the palette that we're going to edit. So it comes up to the default palette. I've actually created one in the My Palettes section here, and I named it I believe this is the VDP one that's open over here. So we'll go to, nope, I've got a Versaworks Perf Cut, and it even shows me that it's open. The little eyeball is open there. So if I click on this one, now it shows me all the colors that are in here. All I did was added a color to it and named it Perf Cut Contour. Since I've already got that in this palette, we'll make a new one in here so you guys can see the process. What I'll do is I'll go over to Add Color, and we'll use the mixer this time. You could use models, mixers, whichever way you want to do, and we'll just pick some color. We're going to go with this color right, we'll go a color right there, and I can change the hue of it slightly there. This is going to be our new color that we're adding to the palette. Once I've picked out what I want, I simply add to palette and then hit OK. There's our new color. Now if I click on this color, it's a CMYK value and it shows it's a process color. So it's showing that it's a CMYK. What I want to do is rename this one. So we'll call this Perf Cut Contour Video. Now I would want Perf Cut Contour just as it's written there for the actual one that you'll use when you go to do a Perf Cut Contour on something. You can name it that way, all one word, capital P, capital C, and then nothing after that. And you want to drop this down and make it a spot color. Now spot colors have that little dot in the corner. You can see it up here as well. Now it's a named color. So when we export it out of Corel, or if you were doing this similar process in Illustrator and you were saving it, you would have that named color, and when it comes into Versaworks, it'll recognize that named color and it'll know it as a function rather than a color to print. So let's go ahead and hit OK on this, and we'll see it added to the palette over here, right down there. And if I go to the bottom, there's our Perf Cut Contour video. So that's how you add it into there. Now let's go to the graphic that I used. I'm going to get rid of this one and open up this file. I've created a Euro oval, and in this Euro oval I've got this one right here, and I put a cut line around it. So we've got our normal cut contour. Let's ungroup all that. So we've got that normal cut contour just going around the outside of it, and I can see 100% cut contour. Well, we wanted to perf cut this, so I could take that one and make it into a perf cut. I'd come over here and right click on that perf cut contour, and now it will do a perforated cut when it comes into Versaworks, and we'll show you the settings in just a minute here. But I made it a little bit fancier on this guy over here. So I have my normal cut right around there, and then I bumped it out, I contoured out, and I made a perf cut contour going around. The difference between this, if I kept the perf cut contour going across here, well, that tag would rip right off, and that's not what we're looking for. So what I did is I broke apart that graphic, and this here, if you look, is a 100% cut contour. So I put a cut contour going across there, so now when this is done, I can remove the ring of material that goes around the oval, and it leaves the decal portion up here and the decal portion in here, and it perf cut all the way around it. If we click on that color there, you can see 100% perf cut contour. So I'm going to go ahead and put that line back, and oops, wrong button, Control Z, and we'll put that back. And you can see it just kind of lines up right there, so it's doing a cut right across there, and then my perf cut comes around on top of it. Another thing I want to point out here is you want to round out corners in perf cut. You don't want a sharp corner where the blade is going in and then it's got to yank in another direction. That's going to tend to be a failure point in the graphic. So we want a nice rounded corner like it is there. So once our graphic's all set up, I would export it out and then bring it into Versaworks. Now I've already got it in Versaworks, and I want to show you a couple different things in here. First off, we're going to start off with the Versaworks test perf cut file. You can download this from RolandVersaCAMM under the support section. They have the file there for you to test out. It'll be in the Versaworks folder. So go ahead and check that one out and download it. When you bring it in, it doesn't show anything here, but you'll notice right off the bat in the special items we have normal cut, this A, and then we have perforated cut. So it recognized that perforated cut pressure. Now, when we go over to the machine and I do some test cuts, I'm going to show you how you can do your normal test cut, and then when you up the pressure, doing a higher one that would be for the perf cut. If I just did the normal test cut feature with that higher pressure, it's just going to cut right through and that'll pop out. What this file does is makes a bigger test cut for you to work with. So let's open it up and look at the settings and see what it looks like. We'll zoom in on this guy a little bit so you can see it better. There's the file. Now, if I take a look at this, and you can see it's got the line to get the blade going in the right direction. It's got the normal cut in the red marching ants or dancing ants, whatever you want to call them. And then it's got this grayish box that is a little different feature than what we're normally used to seeing. Well, when I go into my cutting operations on this, I can see now there's another section in here, this Perforated Cut Controls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable advanced settings. I want to drop my speed a little bit because I don't want to have a really high speed when I'm doing these perforated cuts that's going to cause the blade to yank in directions. Remember, we're going through the media and the backing. So we want to have a little bit slower speed and allow it to catch up with it. So pressure here would be my normal test cut pressure that I did. When I did tests on the machine and I get a good circle and a square, it takes a circle out, leaves a square behind, that's the pressure I'll put in right here. Now the defaults that come up in the perforated area, I believe this is defaults to like 1.79 or something like that in there. What I found to work real well is 1 inch for your perforation length. That's the length that the blade is going to be going completely through the vinyl and the backing. And then my normal pressure would be the pressure that's felt on a normal cut line. That is the length that we want for the little ticks that are going to hold the media to the rest of the roll so it makes a perforation in there. So I did some tests on the machine and I found when I got close to 140, then it was getting close to cutting through the media. You'll do successive tests with higher pressure until you can kind of almost feel it going through the backing. And then I would finish my test cuts from here with this file in Versaworks. what it'll do when we run this is it'll do a normal cut around the circle, normal cut on the square, and then it'll run a perforation cut all the way around this graphic. And we'll show that later on in the video. I took a shot on the machine itself to show that to you. So this is the test file that you can do to get a nice perforation cut and find out if your settings are correct. Once we're happy with those, then I would simply go to the job that I've brought in. Again, as soon as I bring it in, I see it's got a normal cut and it's got that perforated cut here. So if I open this up to go to the settings on this, we'll see I can do my normal layout and quality and everything. Now on layout, a lot of times I tell people centering in media, I'm not a big fan of it, but when I'm doing perforated cuts, I want to leave a little bit more media on the sides where the pinch rollers are to hold it together a little bit better. Because if the media starts separating from the entire run and you have the roller right close to it, it can kind of not be supporting that entire back and forth movement and it'll skew in the machine. So I make sure that there's a little bit of space on the sides there, and I can space them out a little bit, give it a little bit more, a little bit less. Remember, it's going to be perforating these out, so we want a little bit of space in between them to hold that whole media together as the perforated media is going back and forth. So I've got my job set up there with the layout, pick the quality on the media, my printer controls, default settings all the way down for this one, and then in cut controls, I'm going to come through here, again, enable advanced settings, tell it what pressure I want for a normal cut, slowed down the speed, and then in here I did a little perforation length of 0.030, a little bit longer, so it held it on there a little better, and then my perforation length of 1, and I've done my testing with the pressure to get 140. I know it's going to pop right out. So we've gone over creating the color, how to apply that to the graphic, bringing it into Versaworks and setting up the settings in there, testing out the perforation cut from Versaworks, and then we would go ahead and run the job. I would hit OK and run the job. So let's take a look at it on the machine and look at a couple of the considerations over there. When performing normal cutting, we usually have about a credit card width sticking out of the blade holder of the actual blade. For perforation cutting, you're going to want to be able to cut through both the media and the backing. So you'll have to extend out the blade a little bit more. As a general rule of thumb, about 2 credit card widths will do. Next, we'll do a test cut on the media just for a normal cut pressure. And you want to run this so it does the circle and square that's preset within Versaworks and on the machine itself. And what you're going to do is weed that away. A lot of people make mistakes with this and they actually go too deep. So what you want to do is separate it out so the circle comes out and it leaves the square of media behind. And then you want to pick out that square and kind of feel in there to make sure that you're not scoring into the backing. If you're scoring into the backing too much, you're going to wear out your blade a lot quicker and it's not going to function as well. So we're going to zoom in on this and you can see it's got a very, very light edge to it, and that little tick that was in there was from the weeder. Now I'm going to run it again with a much higher cut force to show that if you do your test cuts this way, it's actually going to pop it out right there. See, I went too high of a cut force to where it cut through both the media and the backing, and since it did that, it kind of stuck to the blade that was on there and popped it right out. What I should have done was gone in increases in cutting force until I find out where it's almost cutting through the backing, and then do that other test cut file from Versaworks so that I can get a good spot for where my perf cut should be. Now we're going to run it again, but this time it's going to be with the perf cut file from Versaworks, and it will run that circle and square, and then it does a perf cut square around it. You can see it doing the perf cutting right there, and it kind of catches in that corner there. And remember, I talked about rounding out the corners of stuff so that when it comes through there it doesn't jerk it back. But you'll be able to see in this one that it didn't cut completely through the material and pop out, and thereby might have caused some damage to it. But now we've got a nice perf cut. Everything comes right out of it, and once I get it out of there, I'll be able to do the circle and square that's inside of it and see exactly how my cutting was. These are the settings that you'll use in Versaworks as we showed in the setup earlier in the video. So I'll get close to it but not cutting through. Then I'll go to Versaworks to this test file and I'll run several tests. Now we've got the job coming back. It's finished its printing of everything, and it's going to come back and go and do the perf cutting around each one of these decals. So you're going to see it come out and do the normal cut from the job, does the circle and then the extra line that I put there, and now it's doing the perforated cut around it. If you look closely, it'll go up and down doing the perforation, and I'm also going to continue along with the video here so you can see it on a couple other ones. Now, I purposely work through my settings to get it to the point where it's not going to come off of that media by having that little longer perforation cut, or the normal cut of 0.03, and my perforation is only an inch long rather than the default 2 that comes in Versaworks. So what we'll be able to do is at the end of this, just pop those guys right out of there. So it's on the fourth one right here, doing a nice perforation cut around it. It's fairly quick with all this. Another point to consider in all this is that it will go through cutting strips and blades faster than normal cutting alone. Realize that you're running this through and having the blade go through 2 layers, and it also is perforating completely through and getting into that cutting strip that's underneath it. So factor that in when you're charging for these. Normally, say if you were selling one of these for 50 cents to $1, I might sell these for $2.50 to a customer that's going to resell them themselves, or $5 if it's going on my shelf as a retail item. And you'll see I'll come around here and pop that one out on the end, and you'll see how well this perf cutting does, and that it just pops right out of there. Pretty nice. Now I've got all the decals here just to show you one last time them popping right out of there. It's very easy to separate them. You get a very clean and finished product at the end of it that, like I said before, you could just put a little, use a hole punch to do that circle that I've got on the top of it. And this is a great product that's all finished, nice and smooth on the edge, very rounded corners. It's something that you would see in any store and have a great retail value. So that's a little bit about perf cutting. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you next time.